You know, Robert Kuttner is the co-editor of the American Prospect. Robert, there's this feeling, this sneaking suspicion that American workers have been delinked with the success of corporate America and American business. Is that true, and is it permanent?
Well, it's certainly true, and it's certainly the result of the business model that American business currently pursues, and unfortunately that is abetted by the trade policy practiced by both political parties, which is to say, make whatever deals you can make with whatever countries are offering you subsidies, low-wage workers, a little bit of arm twisting as the Chinese do, and if you can profit from that, God bless you. I mean, in the 50s, Engine Charlie Wilson, then the head of GM, was ridiculed for saying what's good for GM is good for America. There was some truth to that in those years. I'm not sure you could say what's good for GE is good for America, because GE has been moving most of its high-level as well as low-level jobs overseas and making a separate peace with the Chinese.
But the CEO of GE is a man who the president is relying on quite heavily for advice about how to work with business to make sure that the American middle class isn't left out. Right?
Well, yes, and isn't that unfortunate? I mean, if anything, Jeff Immelt is the poster child for the wrong kind of business model.
Super elites don't vote for the president in 2012, and they don't vote for Congress, and it's Congress where there's the real concern about what to do. Robert, what does Obama need to do to help the middle class, weather this recovery and enjoy this recovery?
Well, the super elites may not vote, but super elites fund campaigns, and that's why they have so much disproportionate influence. I mean, I have to take exception to the idea that it's always the middle class that gets whacked. The middle class was getting whacked long before this recession. This is a 30-year process of income distribution becoming more unequal, and we need to turn that around. We need to persuade Congress to invest in America, to invest in the skills of workers, and to have a different trade policy. That's not protectionism. Germany has the highest wage costs in the world, and it also has the highest export surplus in the world, because German elites care whether they still make things in Germany. American elites don't seem to care whether we do, and Obama needs to reach out to public opinion as well as to the Chamber of Commerce to change those perceptions and those policies and those national goals.
Last word to Richard Quest, who's going to throw his pen into the camera at any moment.
Well, Robert makes a very good point. Just look at the way Germany handled the Great Recession. It didn't lay off employees. It put them on short time. It did paid holidays or unpaid holidays. It did all sorts of things. It drove down the cost base so that when the recovery came, German industry, more than any other in Europe, was ready to take advantage of the growth that was coming. So Robert's quite right. But the one other thing, this question of infrastructure is fascinating. Look at the Victorians, look at the last century. They built bridges, they built tunnels, they built roads. They actually built something that we're still using today. In New York, they can't even get the tunnels across under the Hudson. You can't even get agreement on a fast rail network. And right, in Britain, we're having exactly the same problem.
2 seconds to Christy, who is dying to get a point.
Super quickly, I agree with Richard and Robert about infrastructure and investment, but someone has to pay taxes for that to happen, and Americans across the political spectrum seem to not want to do that.
All right, Christy Freeland,
how about the top 1%?
Global editor-at-large of Reuters, Robert Kuttner, co-editor of the American Prospect, and Richard Quest is going to stick around where he can throw things and say Victorian as many times as possible, because I love it when he says that word. Thank you, everyone.